"Can you take that off, sweetie? It'll ruin the class photo." The assistant principal wasn't pointing at a hat or a bracelet. She was pointing at my 10-year-old's insulin pump, stuck to her skin, connected to a cannula, keeping her alive. When my daughter texted me a photo of the staffer's hand hovering over her pump with the words, "They said I can't take pictures unless I remove it," I didn't argue in the hallway. I opened my notes app, wrote down names and times, and called the district's ADA coordinator from my car. I'm Alexis Reed, single mom, project manager, and reluctant expert in Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act because my daughter Harper has type 1 diabetes. We live in Columbus, Ohio, in a little brick duplex 5 blocks from Lincoln Elementary, the kind of school with colorful wristbands on the lost and found and a principal who says scholars instead of students. We chose this neighborhood. For that school, I chose my job's remote option for the nurse's office. Type 1 means Harper's pancreas is on permanent vacation. She wears a tubeless insulin pump on her arm and a continuous glucose monitor, CGM, on her leg. Her phone receives alerts. Mine does too. We treat lows with juice and highs with boluses and patience. Most days it's math and snacks. Some days it's fear disguised as numbers. Before 3rd grade started, I requested a 504 plan. The plan let her carry supplies and snack, shave unlimited access to water, and the bathroom treat lows anywhere, even during tests or assemblies wear. Medical devices in all settings, including photos, and keep her phone on for CGM alerts, have trained adults on duty at recess, field trips, and after-school clubs. It took 3 meetings and 3 drafts, but we got there. The principal signed, the teacher nodded, the nurse high-fived Harper and let her choose a sticker. I exhaled for the first time all summer. Photo day was a Friday in October, the kind of Ohio morning that smells like wet leaves and new pencils. Harper wore a yellow dress with tiny white flowers and new sneaker laces. She asked whether the pump looked weird. I said, "It looks like what keeps you here." She rolled her eyes in the universal language of daughters who know their moms are about to say something sappy and kissed my cheek anyway. At 10:18 a.m., my watch buzzed with a CGM alert, 1:42 and steady. Perfect. At 10:23, a text from Harper. They said remove pump for photos. A photo followed, her arm, the oval pod visible, and a grown-up's hand in the frame, palm out like a stop sign. I called the school office. The secretary, kind but frazzled. "They're in the gym for pictures?" "I'll grab someone. Assistant principal." AP voice came on, brisk. "Mrs. Reed, we're trying to maintain a uniform look for the composite. The photographer requested we remove medical devices for the shot. It's just for a minute." "It's not jewelry," I said. "Removing it means ripping off medical adhesive and a cannula that's under her skin. It's not a minute. It's a sight change and a blood sugar roller coaster. We don't want to exclude her. She can take a picture without the device and then put it back on." "She can't put a used infusion site back on," I said, keeping my tone flat. Also, her 504 plan explicitly says she may wear medical devices in all settings, including photos. "Mrs. Reed, we will accommodate the 504 plan, but the photographer is asking—" "Put me on with the photographer," I said, a new voice, bored and professional. "Ma'am, we can retouch it out if you want, but I can't have it in the class photo. It draws the eye." "What draws the eye is a grown-up telling a child to hide their medical device," I said. "Put the assistant principal back on." I ended the call with, "Do not touch my child's medical devices. I'm coming in." Then I texted Harper, "Do not let anyone remove your pump. I'm on my way. You're safe." I drove the 5 blocks in a fog of adrenaline. I have lost the luxury of panic. Type 1 took that. I parked crooked and walked into the gym. They were lining up the kids on risers, tall in the back, short in the front, the photographer clapping his hands like he was herding kittens. The assistant principal stood at the edge, clipboard under. Her arm, that tight smile administrators wear when they are trying to make a rule sound like kindness. I caught Harper's eye. She relaxed. I didn't. "Hi," I said to the AP. We spoke. Harper will take her photo with her pump on as her 504 plan allows. The photographer, logo polo, tired eyes, held up his palm. "Ma'am, the studio standard is to remove hats, sunglasses, and medical devices when possible. Keeps the composite clean." "Medical devices aren't accessories," I said. "They're protected." "She wears it." The AP shifted. "Could we place her arm behind her back so it doesn't show?" "Harper," I said, "you decide where your arm goes." She put it on her hip like a country singer. "Good." The photographer muttered, "I'm going to need to call my supervisor." "Great," I said. "I'm going to call the district ADA coordinator." ADA coordinator is not a mythical creature. Under Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act, public school, districts must designate a coordinator. Ours is a lawyer named Daniel Whitaker, whose name sat in my 504 folder like a security blanket. I stepped into the hallway, opened my notes app, and wrote 10:18 CGM 142 steady 10:23 text remove pump 10:25 call WAP uniform look just a minute 10:26 photographer draws the eye retouch it out 10:31 arrival AP suggests hiding arm. Then I called Daniel. He answered on the second ring. "Ada office." "This is Alexis Reed," I said. "My daughter Harper is at Lincoln Elementary. Staff are asking her to remove her insulin pump for class photos. That violates her 504 plan and common sense. I need an immediate directive that medical devices stay on students' bodies and in their photos." Silence then. "They asked her to remove a pump?" "Yes," I said, and repeated the words, slow. "Insulin. Pump." "I'm so sorry," he said. "That's not acceptable. Are you still at the school?" "In the hallway?" "They're lining. The kid's up. I'm calling the principal right now. I'll ask him to step into the gym and stop it. Can you stay on the line?" "Yes." We did a three-way. The principal, Mr. Alden, sounded winded with surprise. "We were trying to keep the composite consistent," he said. "The studio?" "ADA compliance is not studio dependent," Daniel said calmly. "We do not ask students to remove or conceal medical devices for photos. That includes insulin pumps, CGMs, hearing aids, cochlear implants, feeding tubes, and braces. This is a district-wide directive. Please inform the photographer that our students' devices will be visible." "Yes," Mr. Alden said. "Right away." "Also," I said, "we need to remediate the harm. Harper's class is up now. She's distressed. I want her photographed with her pump, and I want a district apology to her and a memo to all staff, and vendors clarifying policy." Daniel didn't hesitate. "Agreed. I'll draft the memo today. Ms. Reed, can I call you this afternoon for details?" "You can?" I said, and took a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. My hands shook. I opened my camera and took photos of the hallway, the schedule taped to the wall, the photo day sign, my notes page. I have learned to build timelines. Paper is how you keep feelings from getting rewritten later by people who were embarrassed. Back. In the gym, the AP looked chastened. Her smile had run out of starch. "We'll proceed," she said. "Harper, front row, fourth from the left." Harper gave me a look that said both "I hate this" and "thank you." The photographer took the class. Shot. Then individual portraits. He didn't speak to me. He didn't have to. The law had spoken louder. Afterward, Harper and I sat on the bleachers and shared a banana from my bag because bananas are the universal peace offering of parents everywhere. "Was I in trouble?" she asked. "You were brave," I said. "Some adults forgot a rule. We reminded them. That's all." She poked the pump gently. "Do I always have to show it?" "You always get to decide," I said, "but you never have to hide it." At 2 p.m., Daniel called. I spoke with the principal and the photographer's regional manager. I'm drafting a memo to all principals and vendors clarifying that medical devices are allowed, encouraged in photos. I'm also asking the studio to retrain their staff. "Good," I said. "I'm also documenting this in writing to the district and copying the school board. I'd like a short meeting to add a line to Harper's 504 student. May wear visible medical devices in all school activities, including photos. Staff may not request removal or concealment. And I want staff training, APs, teachers, subs, volunteers on 504 and ADA basics." "Agreed," he said. "Can you send me a brief timeline? Names are helpful." I sent the email at 2:37 p.m. with a subject line I craft like a spell. 504 violation. Request for directive and remedial action. Lincoln Elementary Photo Day. I attached the 504 plan page with devices in all settings, highlighted my notes with times and quotes a photo of the AP's hand and Harper's pump, cropped to avoid faces, a screenshot of the studio's retouching page that offered To remove unsightly items, a one-page proposed staff training topics list. 504 versus IEP, what accommodation means. The difference between fashion and medical devices, and the phrase, do not touch. At 4:12 p.m., Daniel sent a draft, memo. It was glorious in its plainness. Students may not be asked to remove or conceal medical devices for any purpose, including photography. Medical devices are not accessories and are not subject to dress code restrictions. Vendors working on district property must comply with the ADA and Section 504. Retouching medical devices out of images is prohibited without express parent request. Offering such retouching is also prohibited. Staff who observe violations should intervene and inform the building principal and the ADA office. He CC'd the superintendent. My eyebrows reached the good place. The AP emailed at 4:30 p.m. Ms. Reed, I apologize for the distress caused today. We will participate in district training and ensure Harper's 504 is followed. If you'd like, we can arrange a private photo session next week for Harper with her choice of background at no cost. I forwarded it to Daniel and replied, "Thank you. Please extend the option to the entire 4th grade. Several students have devices and/or assistive tech, and no one should feel singled out." He replied, "Agreed." When I picked Harper up, her teacher, Ms. Evans, met me at the door. "I'm so sorry," she said, eyes brimming. "I should have known better. I saw the memo. We'll do a class meeting tomorrow about differences in devices." "Please keep it simple," I said. "Curiosity, not pity. Function, not fear?" She nodded. "I already made a slide. What's a pump? What's a CGM? What's cool about keeping people safe?" I liked her before. I loved her then. The next morning, the principal read the district memo over the announcements. He said the words medical devices like they mattered. The studio sent 2 staffers with better posture and better training. They photographed any 4th graders who wanted a retake, no charge, no commentary. At the end of the week, Daniel invited me to a 30-minute Zoom with the district's student services director, the legal counsel, and the communications team. He asked if they could turn this into a district-wide Know Your Rights, Know the Rules guide for families and vendors. "We'd like your input," he said. "Put this in there," I said. "No one may touch a student's medical device without consent. Aesthetic reasons are not legal reasons. Inclusion means including devices in pictures, performances, field trips, and assemblies. Retouching devices out of photos sends a message we don't want to send. If in doubt, ask the parent or the ADA office, not the internet." We added examples: braces, hearing aids, insulin pumps, CGMs, EpiPens, glasses, feeding tubes, ostomy bags, tracheostomy tubes, wheelchairs, service dog gear. We added, sometimes assistive tech is a phone. That's not a toy, it's a tool. We added a line that made me cry when I read it later. We celebrate what keeps our students safe. 2 weeks later, the yearbooks arrived for proofing. The 4th grade composite showed 24 kids smiling with missing teeth and forced grins and exactly 2 visible medical devices. Harper's pump on her arm and a boy named Jay's hearing aid, blue and proud. No blur, no beige smear. Just kids. Harper sat on the couch and traced the outline of her pump in the picture. "I look like me," she said. "You are you," I said. Ms. Evans told me later that the class meeting had been a hit. Kids asked real questions. One girl said, "Can I touch it?" And Harper said, "No, but you can look." A boy said, "Do you beep in math?" And Harper said, "Sometimes. It's not because of math." They laughed. The next day, 2 kids asked if they could draw medical devices on their What Makes Me Unique posters, so people know. Ms. Evans sent me photos. I cried at my desk and pretended it was about spreadsheets. The district sent the vendor a contract addendum. All vendor staff must complete a 20-minute ADA 504 compliance module. Offering to retouch medical devices is prohibited. Vendor will indemnify district for ADA 504 violations caused by vendor actions. Repeated violations are grounds for contract termination. The vendor signed. They also sent a letter of apology addressed to families of Lincoln Elementary, acknowledging the incident and committing to staff training. It was corporate and careful, but it was public, and sometimes public is the point. At the next school board meeting, during public comment, I said thank you. I told them the policy mattered not just for us, but for every kid after us. Diabetes, epilepsy, hearing differences, wheelchairs. Anyone who carries their safety in plain sight. A dad stood after me and said, "My son's cochlear implant shows in his band photo. That's the first time we didn't have to fight. We made eye contact in the lobby and didn't need to speak. Back at school, the AP avoided me for a week and then caught me at pickup." "Ms. Reed," she said, not quite meeting my eyes. "I'm sorry again. I learned a lot." "Me too," I said. "I learned you can fix a mistake in 24 hours if you want to." She smiled, this time less tight. "We wanted to. We amended Harper's 504 plan with the exact language we'd discussed. The nurse added a section for substitute coverage that included photo days, picture retakes, and school plays because drama clubs are where policy goes to nap, and we weren't doing that again. We added a line. Student may keep phone on for CGM alerts. Phone use for medical purposes is not subject to the general phone policy." We printed 3 copies, signed in blue ink, and put one in a folder that now thickened with victory instead of fear. The following spring, the district communications team emailed asking if Harper would consent to be in a We Belong poster. Kids. With assistive tech and medical devices smiling like just kids. Harper thought for a long time. "Will people stare?" she asked. "People stare because they're curious," I said. "You get to decide if you want to teach them." She nodded. "Okay, but no cheesy slogans." The poster had a simple headline. "This is what belonging looks like." In the photo, Harper's hand was on her hip again, because she is consistent, and the pump was right there. The district printed it for nurses' offices and cafeterias, and the copy in our house hangs above the shoe rack like practical art. Sometimes I think about the phrase, "draws the eye." It does. The pump draws the eye to a story about a pancreas that forgot its job, and a kid who learned math earlier than she should have, and grown-ups who can do better after they do worse. A visible device is an invitation to be the kind of community that doesn't retouch away what keeps our people here. I ran into the photographer months later at a different school's carnival. He recognized me, raised a hand. "We changed the training," he said. "Better examples, better words." He looked embarrassed and proud in one expression. "Thanks for making us do it." "Thanks for doing it," I said. Harper still asks sometimes if the pump looks too medical. I still say the line she pretends to hate. "It looks like what keeps you here." The difference now is that a principal, an ADA coordinator, a vendor, and a whole district said the same thing out loud, in writing, in policy. That's the cleanest kind of revenge I know, transforming a bad moment into a rule that outlasts it. If someone tells your kid to hide the thing that keeps them safe, don't argue louder, write it down, call the ADA coordinator, point to the plan, ask for the memo, make the fix bigger than the mistake. And if a camera ever says your child's safety draws the eye, remind it that inclusion does too.